G'day, welcome to the Tech Math channel. What we're going to be having a look at in this video is linear equations. This is going to be part of a series of videos where we're going to be having a look at linear equations. So this one's just a bit of an introduction. So what are linear equations? Well, these, put simply, pretty much if you were to graph a linear equation, which I'll show you in a second, they come out in straight lines, hence they're called linear equations. They're equations that if you look at the relationships between the different parts in it, they go up by very regular amounts. So that's the reason for the straight line. So I'll launch straight into what an example of a linear equation is. Quite commonly you'll see one that will look like this. Y equals 2x plus 1. And if I was to graph this, okay, we have two variables here. We have the y and we have the x. And if I was to graph this, it'll come out as a straight line. In fact, I'll tell you what, I'll show you this right now. So say, the easiest way to do these when we first do these is we're going to make a bit of a table up for x and y, and we'll put in values of x and see what y comes out, and then we'll graph to see what happens. Okay, so first off I'm going to start with minus 3, then I'm going to go to minus 2 for x, minus 1, 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, and we'll work out what these are. So I'll just put that little grid in to help us to see what we're doing, and now we'll work out what the y values are. So if y equals 2x plus 1, well 2 times x, 2 times minus 3 for a minus 3x value, 2 times minus 3 is minus 6, plus 1 is minus 5. Okay, if x equals minus 2 times 2 is minus 4, plus 1 is minus 3. If x equals minus 1 times 2 is minus 2, plus 1 is minus 1. And you're going to see already we're going up by 2 so far each time. What do you think this one will be? We'll have a look. If x equals 0, 0 times 2 is 0, plus 1 is 1. So we're going up by a regular amount each time. And this is a pretty normal thing with linear equations. So we're going to go up by regular amounts. It's going to be it's something which always happens. So the next one you can probably guess will be a 3. This one here will be a 5. And that one there will be a 7. And you can check those out. You can substitute the x values into the equation if you want to check that out. Okay, so now I've zoomed out a bit and put an axis up so we can graph this linear equation. You can see what they look like. You're going to see we've got two axes here. This is an axis here, the vertical one, which is the y-axis. And we're going to put the y values along here. That's where the y values go. And along here you have the horizontal x-axis, okay? And so we're going to now put these values in here, and you'll see why it's called a linear equation. So, without much further ado, we've got where we have an x of minus 3, we have a y of minus 5. So x of minus 3 and y is at minus 5. Where x equals minus 2, we have a y of minus 3. So minus 2, minus 3. We have a minus 1x and a minus 1y, so they're here. And you're going to see straight away we're going up a nice straight line that started off where x is equal to 0, we have y being equal to 1. Where x is equal to 1, we have y equal to 3. Where x is equal to 2, we have y equal to 5. And where x is equal to 3, we have y equal to 7. So we have this nice straight line. I'm going to draw it freehand. We'll see how that goes. Not too bad. It could have been a straight line. But you're going to see this is a nice straight line that goes through. Hence the thing, linear equation. The other thing you're going to see is if I zoom in, that these are going up by very regular amounts, okay? You're going to see that for the amount that we go across of 1, it's going up 2, and we go across 1, and it's going up by 2. And this is a fairly regular thing. This is and this is something that happens with linear equations. Anyway, just before, the last thing I want to tell you this, and we are going to do a whole bunch of more things on linear equations, will be how do you recognise a linear equation without having to graph it up each time? Well, it's fairly simple, and I'll tell you right now how to do it. So how do we tell a linear equation just by looking at it? Well, you can. It's really simple. You're just looking for 3 key things. There's 3 conditions that we're trying to meet when we look at linear equations. And the first is this. Linear equations can have these things called constants. They don't have to have them, and other equations can also have them. What is a constant? A constant is something like 1 here. Okay? It's 1. It's always going to be a 1. It's not changing. It's constant. Yeah? Other equations could also have a plus 1 at the end of them and not be linear. So this isn't the only thing we look at. And also, a linear equation doesn't have to have this, but it's allowed to have it. Okay, you could have y equals 2x, and that would also give us a linear equation. So there's a second condition we're going to be looking for, is where we look at the constants and the variables. Okay, so we could have a variable here. We have two variables in this equation. We have y and we have x. But these variables, and they can be multiplied by a constant here, but the variables are not raised to any power like squared or cubed, or they're not being square rooted. I'll give you an example here. If I was to say this equation here, y equals x squared, this would not give us a linear graph. This is not a linear equation. Or y equals the square root of x plus 1, okay, as a constant. It's allowed to have that, but this square root thing, it means straight away that this is not a linear equation. So if you see anything like this, you know straight away these are not linear equations. But if you just have x, if you had something like y equals 3x minus 2, you could say, okay, look, these are not being raised up to any powers, and there's just some constants here. This will be a linear equation. There's a third thing we can also look for, okay? And that's that the variables are not being multiplied together. So say you had something like x times y equals 10. This would not give us a linear graph. This is not a linear equation. Okay, okay, so this would give us actually a rather cool looking graph if I was to draw it that looks like this. Okay, it's not a straight line graph. Alright, so pretty much we're looking for those three conditions. They can have constants, that the variables aren't being squared or square rooted or anything like that, and that the variables aren't multiplying together. And if you fulfill those conditions, you've got yourself a linear equation. In fact, every straight line can be represented by this equation that you might have seen before. You might have seen it as y equals mx plus b, or you might have seen it as plus c, depending on where you come from. And this equation is going to be really useful. We're going to be having a look at it in future videos, and it's really, really good. You can tell a lot of things about linear equations just by looking at this particular equation. Anyway, I hope this was a fine introduction for linear equations for you. I'm looking forward to going through these. I really like linear equations, so we'll see you soon. Okay, bye.